Now, President William Ruto launched the Hustler Fund on the 31st of November this year. He said this is just one of the 4 programs that the Hustler Fund will contain. Since then, we've been receiving updates on a daily basis from the government on the number of people who have actually joined the Hustler Fund scheme, on those that have applied for loans, on those that have actually taken loans, and those that are repaying their loans. And as the numbers are showing, we have billions of shillings already disbursed under the Hustler Fund scheme. We also have hundreds of millions of shillings already saved in the scheme. We have millions of Kenyans who've applied to join the Hustler Fund scheme. Now, there are very many questions, of course, that keep emerging here. Number one is, so what exactly is the future of the Hustler Fund scheme and how is it going? For example, if this is one, the personal finance, at what point will the MSMEs, the SMEs and the other products be launched? And then the second bit is, we have the regulations that were already passed in Parliament, and these are the Financial Inclusion Fund regulations that have been presented by the National Treasury, and then were taken to Parliament, and Parliament passed those regulations. Those regulations set up the fund, and they said that the fund shall be managed by a board, a chairman to be appointed by the president. Some of the members include appointees of the CS in charge of cooperatives and MSMEs, and also others from the public. Now, are those in place? Well, clearly not. We haven't seen the gazettement of the members of this Hustler Fund board. Number two, where is the money that is being borrowed currently coming from? The Parliament ought to have passed a bill, and this is appropriating money to the fund. No supplementary budget has been presented to Parliament and passed by Parliament. So which money is being used for the fund? Number three, we're talking about savings. There's a lot of money that is being said to have been saved. When people apply for loans, a bit of that money is deducted and then put into a savings scheme. And the government is talking about the amount of money that has been saved so far. Where is this money sitting? Is it sitting in the National Treasury? Is it sitting in the Central Bank? Is it sitting in a special savings account? Is it a pension? If it's a pension, is it under NSSF? Is it in your individual borrower's account at NSSF? Is it a new scheme that has been established? Who's regulating this scheme? These are the questions that we're asking. Now, somebody who understands a lot about economics and the journey towards establishing the Hustler Fund is Dr. Stephen Gashie, who joins me now in the studio. He's an economist. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
And just like I've done the introduction, you know a bit about the fund.
Yeah, I know a bit of it.
Tell us what is this that you know about the fund?
And first, I think celebrate the feel-good factor after Morocco exploits.
Oh, yes.
So a good thing for Africa.
The first Arab nation to proceed to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I hope they go past to the quarters.
The only African nation so far.
Imagine.
In the quarterfinals.
And also congratulate you. Very good program on your sister FM station.
On Spice FM.
Oh yeah, the station law. Very solid, intelligent, and well researched.
Asante sana.
So very good. I don't miss it.
Enough of buttering me up, doctor.
No, I don't miss it. Very well. I think on the Hustler Fund, there is one bit that we keep missing, that it is one of the strategy of the bottom-up model. And the bottom model of economic development or socio-economic development was geared to more so to those people who we normally say on the eye level, the bottom of the pyramid. So a lot of it, that is what is happening for the first phase, individual loans. So far, from the update today in the morning, about 12 million people applied for registration, 4.6 billion shillings already dispensed, a lot of savings, repayment going up to almost 200 plus million. You talked about the savings.
Yes.
30% go to the normal savings, 70% go to the pension. The idea is to create a pension scheme for the informal sector.
Yeah.
If you look at those people at the bottom of the pyramid, they rarely save because most of the business is
hand to mouth.
Hand to mouth. So, and also to build the saving culture. One bit about the saving, also there is the government is matching the ratio of 2 shillings to 1 up to 6,000 per year. And of course, more of a pull factor for people to stay on the FAD and to minimize on defaults.
Dr. Gashe, before the administration came to office, you are friends with some of the people who were working behind the scenes on some of these strategies, on the bottom-up strategy, right? Am I right?
Yes, it's true.
And so you're also among the people who knows what exactly the design for this Hustler Fund was going to be, who it was going to target, and how it was going to benefit them. Therefore, you also know what was needed to be put in place for it to actually become an operational scheme. What were these things that needed to be put in place before it was launched?
A lot has gone. Of course, we have the regulations, which went through the public participation and eventually went to the delegated legislation committee of the parliament, which has authority to validate. And once they were gazetted, they were implemented. So that part of legality of the FAD. There's also a question on where is the money coming from?
Whose money?
Well, it's already appropriated. There is a supplementary budget that went through. And if you look at the framework where it's sitting on a public management framework, a finance framework. And that is why it's called inclusion FAD. So that is the legality of the FAD. There's a lot of debate whether it's legal, and I can tell you it's legal because it went through that process.
What process exactly are you talking about?
Well, people would have expected to have a bill in Parliament, which is a long route. However, it went through the ambit of public finance framework, or the Act 2013-2015.
Yeah.
It has been repealed. It went through the delegated legislation committee of the Parliament, which is more of public participation through the Parliament, and it was able to validate. Once the regulations were gazetted, then it is done. Where the money is coming from is the supplementary budget.
Which one?
It's already done. It's already done.
Parliament has not passed a supplementary budget.
Check. It's already done a supplementary budget. And that is why it's being called Finance Inclusion Fund. So it's within the ambit of what has been existing. You don't seem to go with me.
I'm trying to recollect. When did Parliament discuss a supplementary budget?
It is done.
And pass a supplementary budget?
It is done.
Parliament just last week discussed the Financial Inclusion Fund regulations, and this is now establishing the Hustlers Fund. And this is the point where the issue of the 50 billion shilling ceiling was removed, and now it's Parliament to set the amount. Has the appropriation actually happened? And if so, how much has Parliament set aside for this fund this time?
That should be about 50 billion annually. I think what the expectation was is that we might tinker the financial bill 2021-2022. Okay? However, the route put in on the ambit of a public finance framework was able to get the funds moving. You can check the fact.
So the fund, as it was launched, already has money in it.
It does.
And then the telcos are helping, using their platforms to disburse the funds.
Exactly.
And the telcos are also the ones that are receiving the funds. Is there a board in place to manage the fund?
Well, by implication, if you look at the regulations, the board members, apart from two external third parties, everywhere else is the CS Treasury, CS Cooperative and SMEs, and all that CS Trade. So it's already, by implication, it's there. So there is managers who are managing the fund because the money sits with the Treasury. However, the board remains to be constituted but by the implication, if you look at the regulation, it's already there, it's laid out. how it moves on.
You know, Dr. Kashia, government works with gazette notices. Appointments are by gazette notice. Now, a board such as this, that is set up by a law, the Public Finance Management Act, and the subsidiary regulations, says that we shall have a fund, a board. This board has not been gazetted.
You see, the board is more on the governance. Okay?
Yes.
The board is more on the governance. So, it's not day to day. So, it's already operational. And I would say, my wise guess, it should be, we are on the first phase, which is more on piloting. Of course, there will be learned lessons. Just like any other loan book, we'll have those learned lessons and how to mitigate and come through it.
The main questions that emerge here are, in the absence of a gazetted board, an appointed secretariat that is then supposed to be, doing the day-to-day management and running of the funds, when the funds are being repaid, there lacks a framework, a proper framework as laid out in law on the management of this particular fund.
True.
The same way we have on the Wezo Fund, there's a board. We have a Youth Enterprise Development Fund, there's a board. We have a Women's Development Fund, there's a board. There is a Hustler Fund, the Financial Inclusion Fund, there's a board. But this board has not been constituted.
I agree.
And yet the fund is in operation.
I agree totally with you. But what gives its legs is the operational framework, which is the regulations. If we didn't have the regulation, then we would have a problem.
So we just have the regulations on paper.
We have regulation, what is happening, and it's already there, gazetted, and we know this is what is happening.
We have the regulations on paper.
It's already gazetted. Already gazetted.
The board is not in existence.
True.
That's why I'm calling it a regulation in paper.
Just one bit, but I think also very soon the president should be appointing the board, just like
if we had the CSs passed, the PSs approved by Parliament, sworn in, and not gazetted, but that gazette notice, would they be in office?
I agree totally, but I'm saying, Eric, once you have regulations gazetted, we are good to go. But I know soon we're going to have the board, and of course the phase 2 in February, which is more focusing on the groups, the enterprises, and all that.
Okay.
And I know there will be a lot of learning by the time we get to February in terms of repayment, just like any other loan book. There will be people defaulting. But I think if you look at the FUD, the exposure is about 30 days. Because 14 days you have to pay. If you don't pay, then you have 30 days, then your account is frozen. So the exposure is up to 30 days.
It's up to 30.
To 30
not
days.
Not the 14.
Not the 14.
14 is just basically the time that you have to
to pay. Because if you go beyond 14, now you go to 9.5% interest. So the exposure is up to 30 days. Meaning, for you to come again on board, to borrow again, you'll have to start from zero.
From scratch.
So that you can build your credit worthiness.
So let's talk about now the economic side of it. Okay. So far, what we are hearing from people is that they've been able to borrow 500 bob, 1,000 bob, up to 2,000. Somebody says they've gotten to 3,000. So from your design of this fund and the impact it was supposed to have, is 500, 700 the impact that was needed to actually jumpstart and support the hustlers?
I would say, again, a wise guess. My hypothesis is that we had a baseline, 500 shillings. Then, depending on your credit scoring, or your credit worthiness, or your borrowing behavior, then you got 1,000, 2,000. Meaning, through as you pay, then you'll build your credit worthiness. However, I keep saying, because I'm in space of entrepreneurship, it's not about the money, the capital. It's a vision and your value proposition. What is that you want to do for your business? Because I'll give you 1 million shillings, 6 months down the line, you're back to zero. I'll give 500 shillings. I always give an example of Mama Mujengo, who always capitalize her business from Monday to Saturday when the fundis are going to be paid, so that they pay for the ritual githeri and the porridge. Because at the space the Hustler Fund was focusing for now. she'll need money Monday to Friday
Yes,
to capitalize
on
that
a daily
business.
basis.
On a daily basis.
She has to buy the ungas for the chapatis,
Everything
the
else.
mandazis, the tea, everything.
So give her 2,000. She's
Okay.
good to go. Yeah, I was speaking to an entrepreneur at the micro space from Githurai, and she told me, one boy, that she borrowed 500 shillings, and with it, she borrowed 1 kg of chapati unga, some sheko, some ile mafuta ya kupima, a bit of it, and she had her chapatis, and within one day, she had a profit of about 120 from 500 shillings. So it's actually your vision, the value proposition. It's not about the money. And again, data talks about you. The government doesn't know about your credit worthiness, but it gives a baseline. Then says, let me see where you go.
So this is where you're starting from.
That's where it starts from.
It's from the point of, it's a first interaction
It is,
with you as a borrower.
of course.
Let's see how you behave.
How you pay?
This hustler, what options do they have before 30th of November for accessing credit?
Of course, in terms of, you just need to be 18 years old. Right?
Now, what options do they have before? Where were they getting credit from?
Of course, the predatory lenders, you know, the Furiza of this world, and a lot of it, actually data shows, of those who are borrowing 2,000, 3,000, they would borrow in the morning, and the evening you pay up. At what percent? Maybe 10%.
Yeah.
So if you borrow 1,000, you pay with 100 shillings in the evening. So those were the options, and of course, the wise in quotes business people who will hold money, Shylocks, 10%, 30%, you know. So that is why they were getting their money. So I look at hustler fathers more as disrupting that. It's supposed to be an innovative fad that tries to disrupt that, and also maybe align the loan space and sector, so that people get to think, oh, why would I borrow at 20, 30% when I can borrow at 8%, 0.002 percent a day, and pay within 14 days and continue doing my business?
So at the 0.02 per day, the proposition here is you're cheaper than the existing
Yes,
options in the market.
of course.
Now, why then did you go for the 14 days? Why not start off at 21 days? Why not 20 days? Why not the entire 30 days?
You know, there's
Why 14?
The key assumption and holding assumption is that you're in business. And if you're in business, probably you just want to upscale a bit. So you will have turned your money quickly, so that with 14 days, you'll be able to apply for more. It's actually to the benefit of the borrower, because 14 days, you'll be able to build your account and get more. Then when you wait for 30 days, when you go again through the process, and you need the money almost every day. And a lot of people who have paid actually is daily payments, and within 4 days. If you look at when it was launched and now, about almost 200 million paid, it will tell you there are people who are out there who are doing something with the money.
What margin of default have you given the fund?
Like in a loan book, for me, from us on authority, I'll give about 20%.
So 20% margin.
I
of
would give
default.
20%. If you look at the industry, 20%.
And that's
20%.
That's a huge number.
Huge.
If you look at that, if you look at 20% out of the 50 billion shillings, you're talking about quite a substantial sum.
Yes, of course. I know the beauty about it. I won't call it totally a default, because when you want to come back for more, you'll have to pay your 500 shillings. That's what I'm saying. The exposure is 30 days. It is not where the bank will report non-payment 90 days. You know, NPL, non-performing loan, 90 days.
Yeah.
This one, within 30 days, you already know there's a default, and you're talking about 500 shillings for the first phase. Probably going to the next phase, already you'll have had defaulters really paying, and already you are saved off those who are most likely, you know, to default.
So most of the people then who are borrowing, even from what you've just described, the target is a business person, right? So whether it's an individual or in a group, but they're in business. So why did we have to start with this personal finance product? Why not a micro business product?
I would call it the piloting phase, because you need to learn a lot. And of course, the other group is more organized. They'll be looking for a larger amount of money. So there are a lot of group dynamics that you need to tie up and get to know how are they moving. Probably they might go through the financial institutions, the intermediaries, the banks, the circles. So probably we'll be able to look at it in February when we get to that phase. However, I would say for this one is more on, let's see how it goes. And it's best when you're looking at the individuals and also the amount of money that you are lending to individuals. So I think the safer way to start.
The other bit now is on the savings. So a percentage of what you borrow is withheld and put into your savings. And then this, you can access 30% of it, 70% goes into your pension, which you shall access, of course, at the age of pension. Explain this.
No, well, I think if you look at our saving culture, as a country, you look at our GDP is about 15% of our GDP. That's why we save, because we can only save through NSSF and the other pension schemes.
Yeah.
So the idea is that, and also informed by data, that a lot of people don't get to save, especially those who are in informal sector, because a lot of their business, it's hand to mouth. So one of the way to encourage saving is, and also to have a pull factor to the loan, and also retain, and also maybe mitigate against default. Because we are telling you, well, we've give you some money, we'll take 5%.
Yeah.
We'll save for you 30%, 365 days within a year. 70% of it you access, as you say, when it becomes to term. Okay, that's the idea. And also encourage you, when you do your business and you get to save within the Hustler Fund, also you're getting a ratio of 2:1 up to 6,000. So idea is to build the saving culture, so that when you get to go home, 17 years, 60 years, and you've been in informal sector, of course you have grown your business, you have something to take care of your retirement. That is basically. And also remember, we borrow a lot of, the government borrows, if you look at our domestic borrowing from the commercial banks, you look at the interest prohibitive. So also there is that traction into borrowing from pension schemes. One of these will be one of the biggest pension scheme where they can invest into the government. If you look at the regulations, one of the work of the regulators or the people who be running the fund is to invest through maybe the pension schemes, the interest, and plowed back to the fund so that the fund can grow. So save for people, and also maybe opportunity for also the government to borrow from the pension, and the owners of the savings can have something more. They can build more on their savings.
So the whole idea here is you put in some 50 billion shillings, let's say 50 billion shillings every year as you continue growing, and then the managers of the fund, as they lend out, this 8% interest comes back into the fund. It's growing the fund. They're also allowed to invest a proportion of this, of course, just according to the law. If it's a pension, then there's a percentage of it, if it's whatever. They're allowed to invest into it to grow the fund. Now, the questions that then start emerging are, under what regulation will this be managed? Are they going to be regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, by the Central Bank, by the Retirement Benefits Authority? What regime is this fund, even as they are putting in money, reinvesting and all, what regime are they being regulated under?
I would give it like any other pension funds. That could be some of them will become the trustee of the pension fund and administrators. So I think they'll go within that ambit of the pension funds. Because remember, there is one portion, 70%, which goes to the pension.
Yep.
So of course, plug and play into the pension fund. and the money domiciled to the respective banks where it is.
But this is only the money that has been retained and has gone into savings, and then the 70% of it that has gone into pension. The board could argue that the rest of the money that I'm just lending out and taking back and reinvesting, this is not going into a pension scheme. So that money, how is it being regulated? Is it that PFM Act, what's the regulatory body that they report to?
Remember, this is government money. I know for the money, the seed capital goes to the Auditor General and all that process, Public Finance Management Act and Framework. However, when you save, you already borrowed the money, you're doing business, that is your money. That is your savings, especially the 30% that you're also saving from your business. So meaning that is a portion of money, just like that which you sit in your bank account. Okay. But your bank account is the app. Yep.
Like we have Mshwari presently.
Yes.
Where we are saving.
You're saving. That's what you are saving. You have visibility of your money, but until 365 days within a year, you'll be able to access. That is one bit. That's your money, because it's a mix-up of 30%
and the 70%.
and what you've saved out of your business. So that is very different from the pension one, because that one I'm sure will be regulated with the pension schemes, which is there.
So this other money, is it under CBK regulation?
No. That is
currently Mshwari is under CBK regulation.
Of course, the CBK.
If I put money here onto my Mshwari, I know that the entire app, as it's being regulated, the money is actually not with Safaricom, it's with a bank, and this bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. So as I look at my balance on Mshwari and I see, I can borrow this and I can borrow the other, I know that the person who is actually oversighting this is the central bank governor.
That is true, because your money sits in a bank. So the governor, central bank, has visibility of the deposits and whatever is happening. So that is, I agree with you. It sits with the bank, but of course, there's a big brother who is looking at the money like any other deposit within the financial sector, include the insurances, the schemes, all those.
The other question then, when you come now to the pension scheme, is as the government was launching this fund, the regulations are in place, contentious. The supplementary budget, you say, has been presented to Parliament and has been debated and has been passed, and money has been appropriated to the fund, you say.
Yes, I do.
Is there any discussion about this pension aspect of it? And where does this money in the pension sit? Is it going to my NSSF account? Is it going to a special pension scheme or provident fund? Where is it going and who's oversighting it?
I would say it's just like your pension here, which has a trustee. So my guess is that the same amount of money will be in a pension scheme that is regulated. It is not a standalone. It's regulated by the space within the pension scheme, just like any other fund. And if you look at the regulations for the fund, it gives the board, the management board, a decision on how they invest the same, so that you can grow the wealth of the fund, just like any other pension fund that will say, now, where do we invest? What portfolio? Do we go to equity? Do we go to assets? Do we go to government bonds? Where do we invest the money?
And the law puts caps on each of those.
Yes.
How much you can
and
put
what
into
the percentage? Probably 10% on this fixed deposit. So it will depend on what portfolio you want to invest your money, just like any other pension.
As trustees of the pension?
Of course, or administer. You are either a trustee or administrator of the pension.
Okay.
Yes.
And those ones have got to be different from the ones who are managing the fund. The fund could have some people who are part of the trustees of the pension aspect of it. The questions basically I'm asking is, when it comes to the corporate governance of this giant thing we're calling the Hustlers Fund, it has elements of it. There's a Hustler Fund that is lending to people and receiving money. Then there's a savings element of it. And there's a pension element of it, all substrata of this. The regulations did not talk about how those different aspects are going to be managed in terms of oversighting and governance. And that's where the questions start emerging. When we bring in the money and this 30% is in savings, which you can start accessing after 30 days, blah, 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 and the other 70% sits in your savings account, have we established a savings scheme? Have we determined who are the trustees of this savings scheme going to be? Are they then registered with the Retirement Benefits Authority as is required by law? Does Retirement Benefits Authority have vision and sight into this 70% of the money and how it's been managed and how it's been governed? Can it answer questions if we ask it? Those are the questions.
Wow, then I get you, because with the regulation, of course, what is going to come is the operational framework. How do you operationalize these 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10 bits of the regulation? I'm sure that is a space that going forward that is will have, just like when you have a bill in Parliament, you'll have operational framework. So I'm looking forward to see that, so that we get to know where do we go from there.
You know, the worrying bit here is that it's already out. The fund is already operational without the operationalization of framework. Now, if somebody went to court tomorrow and said, I borrowed money and I've been told some of it has gone into a pension and I don't know where this has gone to, and there's no regulatory framework, there's no framework at all that speaks about where this goes, then we end up falling into the same trap that the Huduma registration went through. People went to court and asked, you're asking us to register. Do we have a data protection law in place? Do we have a law in place that talks about where you're putting this data and how you're harmonizing the data? Remember, it had to be stopped by court. And the courts agreed with the petitioners that there is no framework. The same thing is happening here. We have gone out, the president has launched a scheme. 12 million people have registered into this scheme. 3.6 billion shillings has been borrowed. A larger percentage of that money is sitting out there with people, and the framework is not in place.
Well, I agree and not agree.
Okay, let's start with the agreeing part.
So the agreeing part is that there is regulations that are already out there. And also agree that there could be issues that need to be harmonized in terms of where do we go ahead from here. So I agree with you that a lot of things need to be put in place, bit of them, so that we're able to secure. Where I disagree is that it's already laid out. There's a framework, there is regulation, there's a framework. So those are bit, I think they're going to, the building blocks, you know, we already have a grounding where we can build on that. And of course, I said, a wise guess, a pilot stage, there's a lot of learning before we get to February, where we have almost a deep dive into it. I know there's a lot of things will change, a lot of, just like what went, if you remember, initially, before the public participation, the regulations were interesting. Like you need to have a guarantor, you need to have a bank account, all those, and after
feedback from
from people, a lot of things changed. So I would say it is not regulations, and the operational framework is not static. It has to be very dynamic and changing with the time. Remember also, there was a request that you need to have a bank account, and we were bribed to the technical part of it. So someone was asking, why would I go and open an account, get the money there, when I go to my mobile, any other platform, within 24 hours or within 10 hours, I'll have the money
in my wallet.
So it's a lot of things that go to change to improve the thing.
Which is where the questions come to you and the other experts who are actually crunching the numbers and burning the midnight oil as you are thinking about this framework. You're not blind to all these options. You're not blind to the reality. So when you come up with this and then you say, let's actually roll it out, and a couple of days later, you start using the words like piloting, learning as we go, building the blocks, questions emerge.
No,
What
if
were
you,
you doing?
if you look at...
How did you advise the president to launch this thing?
Interesting, Alec. If you look at the adoption model, and you have 12 million area adopters, it will tell you something. That a lot of Kenyans out there, they're looking out to this fund so that they can change their economic status. Okay? That will give impetus into looking at what else must we do within the fund so that people can even have more accruing benefits. I'm not an authority on this, but probably we'll be looking at what about universal insurance built on the same. A lot of things will come around. That I'm saying it might not be a dynamic. It's a dynamic.
It's not static.
It's not static. So that's what I'm saying. From where I sit, I'm within the realm of the space of. I would say a lot of things will come out of the fund, and it's very innovative, and it might realign the loan market in terms of people thinking, why would I go to the other when there's so many benefits there? And I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, probably that's why we may mitigate against default. You know why? Why would I borrow 1,000 and not pay, and I'm saving 5% of it, money that I can access? If I do business success-free, then I will get an extra 6,000 in a year. Why would I do that? And of course, the benefits are more than, I would say, the opportunity cost is very expensive if you default, because there's the value of foregone alternative. Where else do you go? Where are you going to get same benefits? Not from here. So I would say very innovative fund, and I'm looking forward to better days for many Kenyans.
An optimist economist. That's what you are.
I would say, apart from 30th of November, where would an average Kenyan would have gone and gotten some money to start a business with those terms? Would you, even an individual, someone had come here, like you say, I'll give you 1,000, go and start a business? Probably no. But there's an opportunity, and I see it as an opportunity. And when you talk about sustainability of the same, I look at it differently. Not now, from where I sit. For me, if I borrow from my M&E approach, I will look at sustainability from the theory of change, meaning what is that we wanted to change? Because a lot of people are talking about the outcome, giving out money. The output, giving out money, and we are bribed to the outcome. The objective of the fund is financial inclusion and deepening credit to that sector of the populace. And for us is that we want them to start an enterprise. So where does sustainability come from? For me, it's 5 years, I'll be looking how many of those enterprises were successful, how many people have been employed. That is what I'll be more concerned than amount of money given out there. Because that is sustainability. Someone can say, we have created 500,000 jobs, or I've changed my status economically, probably move a lot of people from down there to mid sector of economy, middle class, an army of middle class. Remember, a deja vu, Kibaki regime, where there was middle class and consumption and the economy grew. I'll be saying that is
what you'll be looking for.
I'll be focusing on outcome than the output. A lot of people will challenge my theory because you say, but it's the money. But importantly, it's what did the money do for you?
Dr. Stephen Gashia, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to just observing and seeing what the fund is doing. But like we're saying, it is important that everything is done in accordance with the law.
I agree.
and everything that is done on paper and clear to everybody. And that's the purpose of asking all these questions.
I agree.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Newsline tonight and for watching this particular segment with Dr. Stephen Gashie, who's an economist who knows a thing or two about the Hustler Fund, having worked behind the scenes on the formulation of the entire idea of the Hustler Fund and how it's going to be structured. Have a lovely evening. My name is Eric Latif.